Inside these boxes, I have two pairs of football boots that are technically the same, but also technically different, which I realize doesn't make a lot of sense, but we're talking about Mizuno, and they tend to do things very differently from everyone else. Inside this fancier box, I have the $320 or 300 euro made in Japan Mizuno Morelia Neo 3 Beta, basically their top of the line flagship model in the Neo lineup. And then inside this much more plain blue box, I have this guy right here, the 200 euro or roughly $200 made in Indonesia Mizuno Morelia Neo 3 Elite. It's technically a takedown model, but it's definitely top-end quality and does bear a top-end price as well. The question is, what are the main differences between them, and is this one really worth the extra $100? So what I'm gonna do in this video is compare the two in all of the ways that I think are important to know about. We'll also compare how they fit and feel on feet, and hopefully help you determine which of these options is going to be the better one for you, depending on either one, what you're looking for, or two, what your budget is, because they're both good models, but they are of course different. If you're interested in learning about that, please stick around and watch the entire video. And if you're interested in either of these two boots for yourself, keep in mind the made in Indonesia version is only available in Europe as of right now. Not sure if that's going to change, but you can find buy it now links for both of these boots down below in the description, where you will also find some SR4U coupon codes to be able to pick these up below their normal retail prices. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying this video and perhaps would like to see more comparisons on the channel, don't forget to support this one with a like and let me know specifically what you'd like to see down below in the comment section. And of course, if you are new here watching for the first time and don't want to miss out on weekly content on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. Now this has nothing to do with the performance of the boots, but it is worth noting because obviously you want a pair of boots that look good. And I think it's safe to say that the made in Japan version with its extra $100 in the retail price looks significantly more premium. You'll notice that the leather at the front has this glossy finish to it with a silver sparkle running throughout. There really isn't any other leather that looks quite this fancy on a pair of football boots on this particular colorway as well. The color on the actual Mizuno Runbird is just way more vibrant, and there's more colors thrown in as well. In general, all the colors, even the accents on the sole plate, are just much more vibrant, and the overall finishing across the entire boot just seems that much more premium. But that is not to say that the made in Indonesia version looks cheap at all. Has more of a matte finish pretty much to the entire upper, certainly in the leather. That's a pretty distinctive looking difference. You don't have the incorporation of the pink in the Mizuno Runbird logo, which some people might actually prefer. And like I said, side by side, all the colors look a little bit more dull, but just on its own, you really wouldn't be able to tell that much of a difference. Now I want to make something really clear with this comparison, because it seems like every time I reference where a pair of football boots is made, it turns into this thing in the comment section where people think I'm saying good or bad things about the entirety of a country, and that's not the case. These are made in Japan, and the reason why that's important is not because of the physical location of the factory, but the actual process that they use to manufacture these football boots, where they sit on a last for 24 hours, where a normal football boot at most will sit on a last for about an hour. There's a huge amount of attention to detail, and really this is the most intensive manufacturing process you're going to find on any football boot. That is kind of the appeal of Mizuno made in Japan products. It's why they make such a big deal out of the fact that they're made in Japan, and also part of the reason why we don't see other brands really making the same claims, because nobody does it like made in Japan Mizuno. Where made in Indonesia is not a knock on Indonesia, it just means that it's more of a, I guess, normal construction process for a pair of football boots, where the quality is still fantastic. This is not takedown level quality whatsoever. I would argue that the made in Indonesia Mizuno product is just as good, if not better, than top-end product from Nike, Adidas, Puma, the more popular brands out there. So safe to say that the made in Japan version is better overall quality when you're talking about the construction, but the made in Indonesia version is definitely not that far behind. Now here's where things get pretty interesting, because I have reviewed made in Indonesia Mizuno boots before, and historically, especially when you're talking about the Rebula line, there have actually been physical differences in the construction and the materials used, where with this particular boot and even Morelia Neos in the past, I've always found the difference between made in Japan and made in Indonesia to be relatively minimal. And if I'm being 100% honest, because I often get accused of saying overly nice things about the Mizuno brand, people seem to think that they pay me or something like that. I can assure you 100% that's not the case. If that is the case, then I'm still waiting for my check in the mail, Mizuno. Probably shouldn't say things like that. Doesn't matter. But to be brutally honest with you guys, as much as this kind of hurts me to say, because I absolutely love the attention to detail and just astonishing quality of the Made in Japan version of this boot, when you have the Made in Japan version on one foot and the Made in Indonesia version on the other foot, they feel almost identical. And maybe there's somebody out there that's tried both that can share a different perspective, but honestly, I was really surprised at how close these two boots feel to each other, considering how different you would expect them to be. For those unfamiliar with the Morelia Neo 3, this is the first major redesign that we've seen to the Neo series since it was first introduced back in 2010. It still features the signature, very high quality kangaroo leather in the forefoot and toe box area that on the Made in Japan Neo 3 Beta variant that I have right here is really some of the nicest quality leather you will find on any boot at all. Notable details include the double stitching and honestly, just an incredible feel to the leather. I guess the one knock against it is the fact that there isn't a ton of leather on the football boot, but as you can see, it transitions into a textile base through the midfoot and then more of a knitted material across the top of the foot, as it now has a one-piece construction, where some longtime Neo fans are not quite a big fan of that. They prefer the more traditional tongue. I'm still kind of undecided, but I think that this works really nicely overall. They tweak the shape just enough to where it doesn't ruin that traditional Morelia Neo fit, but I would argue that the boots are actually a little bit more comfortable this way, and it does feel slightly more seamless across the top of the foot as well. Still features a low cut. They have kind of altered that little tab at the back into an elasticated knit material, which means that it's not really in the way. I actually think that's a nice improvement. And then if you look at the internal liner, it is a very, very soft microfiber material, plenty of extra padding. The construction is phenomenal. There really is nothing to complain about here. Everything is about as well done as it possibly can be. Moving to the Made in Indonesia version, it features pretty much all of the same materials. Now, technically, the kangaroo leather at the front is visually a little bit different. In terms of thickness, it feels almost identical to me. And in terms of softness, while it is maybe the slightest bit stiffer to the touch in comparison to the Made in Japan model, when they're on feet, it is near impossible to tell a difference between the two, at least in my opinion. The textile and knit material that you have running through the midfoot is virtually identical. It has pretty well the exact same construction at the back, being made out of an elasticated knit material. I will argue that the knit itself seems to be a slightly cheaper type of material, but again, it's a very subtle difference. That's more of a visual thing rather than something that you can feel. It also has a super soft microfiber liner that again is maybe not quite as soft, but it is 99% of the way there. The only minor difference that I could find between these two boots is inside, where the liner is slightly different in terms of how it's constructed. It's still made out of the same materials, but in general, is this something that you're gonna notice when playing in either of these two boots? The answer to that question is no. And then as far as the sole plates and stud patterns are concerned, as you can see with the two side by side, you cannot tell a difference. And as far as I'm aware, there is no difference between the two. It would be very expensive for Mizuno to create two separate molds for a Made in Japan and Made in Indonesia product. It does not look like they've done that. And I don't have the specific details. I'm not even sure Mizuno would give them to me. But as far as I can tell, the sole plate and stud pattern, regardless of which one you go for, is exactly the same, which is actually a very good thing because this is a really good sole plate and stud pattern. And then there's the weight. Obviously the Morelia Neo is a speed boot, so the fact that the boots are light is important to the overall feel and experience that you'd expect from a football boot like this. The question is the more expensive Made in Japan version actually lighter than the cheaper Made in Indonesia version? And the answer to that question is no, because they're very similar to each other. Both in a size 9.5 US, I'll weigh the Made in Japan version, which admittedly does look a lot cooler. You can see that they weigh in at 7.4 ounces, the equivalent of 209 grams, which is kind of middle of the road for a lot of speed boots out there. Not super light, but certainly not heavy. Then we'll throw on the made in Indonesia version, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.05 ounces, the equivalent of 200 grams. So technically, on a scale, the made in Indonesia version is a touch lighter, literally a couple grams lighter than the made in Japan version. Why? I can only assume that this uses a little bit less glue and probably slightly thinner, lighter, and arguably cheaper materials. Are you gonna notice a weight difference between the two, however? Definitely not. So here are the two versions of the Morelia Neo 3 on feet. The much shinier one on my right foot is of course the made in Japan model, and the much more dull matte finish one is the made in Indonesia version on my left foot. Now, aesthetics aside, I think what was most surprising to me with these two boots is that when you put them on and tie the laces tight, they feel pretty much identical. There are subtle differences in the materials when you're holding the boots in your hand and just feeling them in pretty much every possible way. But once you have some socks on and you throw them on your feet, you just can't tell a difference. I'm sorry, I'm sure there's gonna be somebody that disagrees with me, but I'm shocked at how similar these two boots feel. It's almost identical. The only thing that I can kind of pick out as a subtle difference is, for whatever reason, it seems like the made in Japan version is a touch wider through the midfoot, but it is a very small difference. Other than that, there's nothing that you're going to be able to pick apart between these two boots. As far as the overall fit and shape is concerned, they're both a decent width. I think that this new construction actually feels a lot more comfortable than past variations of the Neo that felt maybe a little bit too narrow through the midfoot. So these are going to be really accommodating for most foot types, even if you do have slightly wider feet. Just keep in mind that the midfoot area isn't going to stretch all that much because of the material used. And as far as sizing is concerned, they are both exactly the same as well, where I think the Neo 3 runs about a quarter size big. I'm wearing these in a size 9.5 US, and I have slightly more room than I would personally like to have, but a 9 ends up feeling a little bit too tight for me. So something to keep in mind when you're getting a pair, they are about a quarter size long. So whether you stay true to size or go half a size down, that's something that you kind of have to decide for yourself. Luckily, the leather at the front, whether you go for the made in Japan or made in Indonesia version, will stretch a decent amount. So it's just something to keep in mind before ordering. And then of course, both of these boots are paired with some pink Pure Grip socks, which is my own brand of grip socks. The most affordable grip socks currently available at just $14.99 a pair. They're available in a wide variety of colors at puregripsocks.com. If you're interested in some for yourself, you can actually get 15% off from now until January 1st, 2021 by using coupon code PURE15. Again, the website is puregripsocks.com, linked down below. So in conclusion, which version of the Morelia Neo 3 should you buy? The more expensive Neo 3 Beta that's made in Japan, or the less expensive Neo 3 Elite that's made in Indonesia? And I think the answer to that question depends on how much of a boot nerd you are, and I'm not kidding. If you're like me and you're just obsessed with the little details on a pair of football boots, then I think you'll truly appreciate the attention to detail and just the quality of materials used on a made in Japan Mizuno product. They're very expensive. This is definitely what I would classify as a functional luxury item, but it's definitely something that you don't need to perform optimally. And really, if you just want what the Morelia Neo 3 platform has on offer, then you would truly be better off saving the $100 and buying the Neo 3 Elite. It's made in Indonesia, not quite as cool as made in Japan, I would argue, but functionally, they are pretty much the exact same football boot. If you had them on either feet with a blindfold, you would have a very difficult time telling them apart. And while these are aesthetically not as pleasing, they're maybe not as interesting either, they're just excellent football boots for significantly less money. So for that reason, this is certainly the better value, but that's not to say that I can't recommend the made in Japan version either. It's great that they offer two versions of the boot. You could argue that this is a little bit overkill because it is by far the most expensive inline model on the market. But like I said, if you really want function and value for money, made in Indonesia is the way to go. If you're a boot nerd and you just have that extra money to spend on a luxurious pair of football boots, then the Made in Japan model is probably right up your alley. Anyways guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in either of these two boots for yourself, be sure to check out the links down below in the description. That's going to take you to the review pages on my website, where you will find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes to pick these up below their normal retail prices. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching and we'll see you in the next one.